Welcome back to episode
11
of Show and Tell. This is my small adventure to highlight the creators and contributors to the Magic community. Today, I am graced with not one, but two guests. Let's see how I managed to not mess this up. Carolyn and Haiyue, co-chairs of the VML. Two of you, thank you for coming on and, making me figure out how to do multiple people and multiple cams, but I think it'll be fun. I think we'll have a good time. How are you guys doing today?
Yeah, doing great. Thank you. Thanks for having us on, Drew.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're excited.
Me too. A little nervous, but also very excited. So I wanted to have you got a chance to have you both kind of come on. A lot of cool stuff to talk about. My silly joke I always start with is the best place to start is the beginning. So I'm always kind of interested about what people's background with what got them into Magic in terms of their origin story, if you will. So I don't know, whoever starts talking first. I want to talk about when did you guys start playing Magic? Like, what was your introduction to the game? I guess I could be a host. Let me. Caroline, why don't we start with you? Why don't you tell me about this is how you do it, right? You direct this conversation. So why don't you tell me about your history of Magic? What did you start? What got you playing? What was your first set? What do you like to play in terms of I guess formats and all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah. So I also call it my Magic origin story for what it's worth. It's like my favorite sentence. I started playing Magic in the end of Return to Ravnica. I got into Magic because I just traveled back to my hometown of Vancouver, Canada, and I started working at a childcare center, and some of the older kids were interested in Pokemon and other card games, and I enjoyed exploring those card games, but was looking for something for myself as well, and so kind of married those ideas together and discovered, the classic local game store that had the really casual F&M, that tricked you into playing taught you how to play Commander. And then after a while, that was super fun, but I just reached a point where I wasn't feeling comfortable wanting to win all the time. This sounds really weird, but it's kind of true. I just realized that that's not what my friends want to do. And so I discovered something called competitive Magic. I don't know if you've heard about it.
It's a myth.
But that involved originally just travel, busing. I used to take public transit to different game stores. And then eventually I discovered something called Grand Prix. And I discovered in general, in real life, I'm not super outgoing, but for some reason in a really grayed out concrete hallway floor situation with a bunch of nerds, I'm really outgoing, and so Grand Prix became my thing, and that's honestly where I spent and kind of devote most of my time to Magic, is these gatherings of sorts, which is sort of makes sense how we ended up here at the VML. And yeah, I guess my general play style is mid-range to closer to the aggro side. No blue mana.
Have you heard of the card Mind Rot? That's Caroline's favorite card.
No, it's not Mind Rot. It's Goblink.
Yeah, but right. Mind Rot is the archetype of cards.
I know.
See, I'm old school. I go straight to him to Turok, the 2 mana at random. That used to cause me nightmares when I first started playing, because it's you play these guys, and I 4 of them, and it's okay, there's 8 cards, and the random aspect really gets you, because you're oh man, it's always what they want. You don't want them to grab. They manage to find a way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's too funny. Awesome. So you're a grinder, I guess, a little bit. That's kind of the.
Yeah, I'm a big time spike for sure, and you'll see between Haiyue and myself what role I play versus what role Haiyue plays. Haiyue's also a competitive player, but I definitely bring the spikiness to the party.
Very cool. Well, so Haiyue, so tell me about you. What got you into playing? And
so I started a little later than Caroline. I started in Amonkhet was my first set, and I kind of fell in love with Magic in a very weird way, in that I was chatting to some people at work, the place I used to work, and someone said, "Oh yeah, I used to play Magic the Gathering, but I don't anymore because all the cards are too busted now. Like, they were just complaining about power creep. Right? And I was like, oh, well, what do you mean?
And that was an omnibus.
Right. And like, I didn't really know what they meant, but we went kind of on the internet and Googled like 10 most busted Magic cards. I don't know. And it just came up with this very basic list, and it was like Emrakul, like 15 mana Emrakul or whatever. And I just started reading these cards, and I just became obsessed with them. So I bugged people I knew who knew how to play to teach me, and then started going to stores. And actually, I kind of bypassed all of the being tricked into playing Commander part. Like, I went to the store, and Limited was pretty much all I played at the beginning. And all I would do was watch Pro Tour coverage. Like, I was just obsessed. I went on YouTube, I would just type Magic the Gathering, and then, you know, like the previous 5 years of Pro Tour coverage was just all on YouTube. And I spent the first several months of playing Magic just only watching YouTube videos of Pro Tours, and I had no idea what was happening. Like, I just had no idea what was happening. I barely learned the game. I didn't know why their lands looked different to each other. Like, it was just complete. But I was just very obsessed with the way that the casters were like presenting the game, and like it was clear that these people were just so good at what they do, and that really mesmerized me. So that's kind of how I got into Magic. And playstyle wise, I would say I definitely won all the blue cards in my deck.
Okay.
Please.
So you guys, you like fit together like two pieces of a puzzle. Is kind of what.
We'd be a good two-headed
We would
giant.
be very good two-headed giant.
We did. We were
yeah,
very
that's true.
good. We did it one time.
And I also, and mostly I play Limited. I draft a lot. Sealed deck is actually my true love right now. It took me like 4 years or something, but of thinking sealed was just a bad draft. But now I'm like, wow, sealed is the best. And so that's kind of where I spend a lot of my time.
That's funny. You two might be the first two like not commander focused people I've talked to. So that's great. Okay, here's a dumb question. I probably could look up, but I'm not going to because here we are. So what's the difference between sealed and just like limited? Is it like the packs what is the difference between sealed and limited?
Well, basically limited has two separate parts, and sealed is one and draft is the other. But draft is what most people think of when you say limited. So draft is like you sit down, you open a pack at a time, and then when you open the pack, you take one of the cards, you pass the pack to the next person, you receive the pack. And then once you finish that pack, then you do two more. So draft is like 3 packs, and then you get to pick. And because you're picking a card each time a pack comes around, your decks tend to be very synergistic and kind of a bit more focused, and works very well. But you're only really making one decision at a time. And sealed is the opposite, where you just open 6 packs. So you get way more packs, technically, than you do in draft. You just open 6 packs, but you just have to build out of everything that you open. So it's kind of a bit of a crapshoot as to like what rares you get, what commons you get, what fixing you get, that kind of stuff. In the kind of competitive limited sphere, both are very important. Sealed, I would say, is more of like earlier on in a competition, you'll tend to be playing more sealed, and then draft a bit later on.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense in terms of differences in playstyles. I am very bad at drafting, and I refuse to learn to get better, so I will just never draft. I know a lot of people. It's always funny because there's always the argument that like draft is like the purest form of Magic because like you have to play with just whatever. But I could argue that constructed is the purest form because it's decks kind of be standardized, so like it's the play. You probably make the argument for either, depending. It's I always joke that I had a philosophy teacher talking about theories of knowledge or whatever, and we were comparing two, and it was like the TA, and the student's like, well, which one would you use? And he goes, well, I'll use whatever one would answer, would support my claim. So it's you just pick the one that supports your theory, and you're good to go. So useful philosophy there, which is not useful and very useful.
I think the thing that arguments about purity aside, I think the thing that really appeals to me about limited is that everyone starts on an even footing. Like, obviously there's going to be randomness in terms of what you open, but You don't have to, it's not pay to win. Like everybody starts with 3 packs, everyone starts with 6 packs. Like it's kind of, it is random, but it's also kind of skill testing in a way that's like different to Constructed. But in Constructed, certainly there's a huge amount of skill, and I don't think that one or the other is necessarily more difficult.
No, I don't want to. Yeah, I don't mean to say. Well, yeah, there's definitely massive skill levels involved with both form. Again, it's just like what you're into playing, right? There's every format has a level of skill involved if you're going to be considered very good at it or what have you. So I do not want to take away that. Oh no, like no, that is definitely my point. It's just I am very bad at drafting, so that is not my format of choice. Carolyn, do you do any drafting? Or do you stick to Constructed? Like, what are you?
She'll play anything with a prize pool attached.
So that
all right.
is probably the correct answer and very true. Like if I look at the last 3 tournaments I went to, 2 of them were RCQs that were sealed / draft, and then one of them was Constructed modern. Yeah. So yeah, Haiyue's right. I do just play whatever is around on the weekends.
Right. So you are. So you're a spike. Like you want those prize pools. It's oh man. Okay, so this is I play mostly. Well, I really don't play a lot. So I play a lot of historic brawl on Arena, and I play a lot of when I get to play paper round, I play a lot of Commander. So I don't play competitive EDH. I play just with mostly just random friends. So having someone who is very interested in like the spike, this is great. This is a lot of this opens so many more doors for me because I'm like. So tell me about like what's it like competing in like a competitive atmosphere as someone who only has once played in a Friday Night Magic where I just got, again, this is probably my only drafting, where I just got completely destroyed by. I literally had one friend in college who had done a lot of drafting. I was like, what do I do? I don't even know, what was it? Bread? Is Bread still is it Bread? Bombs removal. I don't even remember what.
Bread is definitely still around. It's maybe modern sets are a little bit less bready and more synergy focused, but that's that's certainly a good starting point for draft.
Starting point. That was literally the only ever strategy I was ever given for draft. But what do you find about competitive? What itches it scratch? Is that the phrase? What itch does it scratch that you find compared to like say like a casual Commander? What do you mean? What is your experience like?
So I sort of alluded to this earlier. I just reached a point where I was playing against people that wanted to win, but also were more annoyed when I won. Mm-hmm. Like the politics were getting a bit out of hand. Some friends suggested things like, oh, let's play like a casual modern deck. So I built one type of deck and they built another, and mine just happened to line up against theirs, and then they didn't want to play anymore. Gotcha. So like we were just getting into these spots where the goal wasn't equal. Like their goal was like fun, but also they wanted to not feel bad. And I was like, well, I don't know how to, I don't really know how to navigate that. So then when I discovered, like at the time, PTQs and PPTQs, like smaller competitive events, everyone's goal in the room was the same. And everyone left the match being like, they wanted to win, and either one person did or didn't. Yeah. That's fine. But the goal was ultimately the same. So I can't feel bad if I lost or if I won, because we equally wanted to do the same thing, and they wouldn't feel bad if they won. And so it became much easier to navigate because I had a similar goal to everyone else. And I felt that I felt like I wasn't guessing every time I was playing, like, how political should I be with my Commander opponents and stuff like that. So I don't know. It feels, I don't really know how to describe it because it's just sort of something I love. Like, often, I'll show up on a Saturday, walk in a room of like 40 other people. You, at this point, mostly know all of them if you're like me. You just go to everything. So you're often, writing down your deck list. You're potentially scrambling for cards. Maybe you're even cracking Brothers War booster packs to find a common that you forgot to bring. Maybe.
Just desperately
that might
dashing
have
around
happened
all the
on the
vendors
screen.
around the GP.
No, there was no vendor. This was a local store that I had to buy 10 Brothers War packs and open a common. So it cost me $30.
Wait. Did you buy them one by one and then open it and then say I need the next
No,
one?
because they gave me a deal.
They gave you a deal.
They gave me a deal
I
if
would
I
have
bought
bought
10.
buy one, open it.
In which pack did you find it? Like how far down? Oh my
ninth-
goodness.
the
Okay.
ninth pack.
So it was worth it. It was good.
No, here's the thing. So I wanted them open one at a time because the extras I wanted to play pack wars with, my partner and I, that's like the real way that we interact with casual Magic is through a game called Pack Wars or Paigao. And so I wanted to save them if we didn't need them. And so the 9th pack is actually the worst pack.
because
there's only one
two,
pack
right?
left.
you need
You need 2, yeah.
That's so funny.
So the 9th was a real
so
day.
funny.
Like 10th would have been like, okay, I made it, that was lucky, and 9th was
That's
just the day.
hilarious.
Deck, so. But I did open the card, and it was a very crucial card for the deck. So, but yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of the vibe, and then you know, a lot of waiting, a lot of standing around and waiting. That's probably something that doesn't really maybe happen in Commander as much. And then feelings, emotions, you know, had those too.
No, go ahead.
No, it's just to tag on to kind of something that Caroline kind of mentioned with Paigao, which is that I also love casual Magic. Like, I wouldn't say that it needs to be Comprel or bust. Like, I love FNM. I love. I enjoy Commander. Like, actually, I played a lot of Commander recently with the VML tabletop events that we've been doing, which I'm sure we'll mention in a bit. And I've enjoyed it. And I think that there's like a lot of other formats that are kind of underappreciated. Maybe not underappreciated, but less mainstreamly appreciated. So Cube, for example, is one of my favorite formats. And Cube is limited, it's drafts, but somebody has made the set. So like instead of drafting just Brothers War packs, they've made 360 cards, and then we separate them into packs and draft them. And it's and because they've designed it, there's some kind of thing going on in that cube.
Yeah.
And that is like a casual format that I love. Pack Wars is great. I've been playing some shared deck formats. I don't know if you've heard of like Dan or formats like that.
Okay.
Which are kind of very interesting and weird, where like there's one deck and you both share it, and then you kind of have to like manipulate the top of the deck and like try and kind of fight, but you're just kind of fighting with this, trying to get the better of each other over like a shared resources, which is very interesting. So there are lots of casual Magic things that we play and enjoy.
I actually want to add into, like, I recently have been going to a local game store here in Denver. I split my time between Vancouver and Denver, Colorado. And it's a very tiny store. It has like 12 teenage Magic players that show up every week, and that's it. And I have just been falling in love with like finding that local store again with like the casual F&M. I could do with like a little less of like your mom jokes, but I think that just comes with the teenage part of life. But it's been really fun again to like discover that it's not always about spikiness. Only sometimes.
It's funny because there's this kind of ongoing philosophical question that Commander has, where maybe CEDH is trying to solve, where like people who don't want to play competitive Commander where you win in turns like 3 or 4, but also you want to play a version of Commander where like you can win at some point. Like there's like I think you mentioned like the feel bads. Like there's like a weird balance in casual Commander with like not making people feel bad, but like still wanting to kind of be some balance between competitive and non-competitive. But so I could definitely understand like the allure of a competency, because like you said, everyone's going in with the same sort of base idea of like you're here to win, right? You're here to get a prize pool in or what have you. So I can definitely see how that would be a more I don't want to say casual. It's like, obviously everyone has different ways to enjoy things, but it's a very straightforward way of playing Magic. Like, you know what you're kind of in for, and you know what to deal with, and there's no like real surprises. So as someone who's just not competitive, I guess, most of the time, you know, I'm kind of whatever. But you know, you could definitely imagine a scenario where someone is like, oh yeah, like I got killed in the first 5 minutes of the commander game, and I have to sit around for 3 hours where everyone else kind of does their own thing. So, but you know, I think maybe more people should try more competitive formats. I think there might be. I think sometimes it's really easy to get caught up in one sort of lane of playing. Yeah, and maybe there's like outlets to kind of balance the two. So that's that's cool. I mean, do you still? Well, I guess are you still? I mean, how competitive? Like, I know you both are pretty competitive players. How often are you two getting to go out and really kind of? I mean, I feel like they've revamped. I mean, I never was so I never really understood how the competitive system works between all the acronyms. There's a lot of acronyms involved, which is. So I guess, like, how often do you get to? Oh, one more time. Time's up. Thanks for coming by, everyone. This has been great. No, I'm just kidding. How often How often do you get to play? I guess in competitive scenarios. I guess is my question for either both of you really. I don't know how you want to go first or.
Sure. So the way to think about it, and Carolyn's going to laugh when I say this, the way to think about it is a pyramid. Which is literally how it's described on the website, right? So basically at the top is Worlds, right, with World Championships.
Wait, you're going to describe organized play?
This is my job. So at the top is World Championships, and then feeding into that are the Pro Tours. So the Pro Tours have always been like the kind of premier event series everyone's trying to get to, the Pro Tour dream. And then in order to qualify for that, there's things called the Regional Championships, and there are 11 of those in the world. So Canada has one, US has one, Europe, Southeast Asia, etc. So there's 11 different regions of the world, and they all have a regional championship. And in order to get to the regional championship, you can go to qualifiers for it at your store. So that's like when Caroline says every week she can go to a store to play a qualifier, that's like the regional championship qualifier kind of thing.
So that's RCQ. Okay.
RCQ, exactly.
All right.
And then if you win that, you get an invite. You get to go to the regional championship, which there have been a few recently. There was one this past weekend in Toronto, which is the Canadian one. Canadian one's actually a bit weird because it's split in two, but the Canadian part one was this past weekend, and then the weekend before that was Atlanta, was the US one, I believe. And then other regions in the world have been having them in this time period as well. So this is actually the first season of the new OP. I think that, with Wizards of the Coast really had a little bit of difficulty during, obviously, COVID and the pandemic, because that disrupted the competitive system. So this is the kind of rising out of the ashes, like the new system that everybody is following now. See, Caroline did it in 2 minutes.
Yeah. I understood it, so I was, pyramid. You just small feeders. You win. You make it to the top. There you go. Easy peasy. All right, cool, awesome.
In terms of how often I actually get to play, the answer is competitively, like maybe every other week. Caroline probably has more stores in her vicinity that has the weekly qualifiers. For me, I would say I would go once or twice every month. But there's also online qualifiers like Arena and Magic Online, so I would play some number of those also.
Okay.
I play every weekend, essentially.
All right. Yeah, it's a real. I love it. This is great. This is like. Do you have do you find the difference playing between like Arena? Do you guys balance both? Do you both try to do Arena and paper, or do you kind of focus on one or the other? Is like a preference, or does it kind of just whatever is available, sort of thing?
I play Arena specifically at this point only for the Arena Opens, because they're the best thing to play for. I usually don't open my account otherwise. I play Moto, Magic Online, probably weekly, but probably just testing for a paper tournament that's coming up. And then paper is my true interest. So I would say that's where I spend most of my thoughts.
Makes sense.
I would say a similar split, although I do draft a lot on Arena. because it's just the easiest and cheapest way to keep your collection full on Arena. Is just if you're infinite in draft, you can basically just have all the cards from every set.
Yeah, that's
Which
what
is a good motivation to learn to draft. Drew?
It is. As I'm starving for wild cards, I'm just like, you see these draft, these limited players, like, oh, I have 72 rare wild cards, and
yeah, I have so many wild cards that I just never use. And you play Historic Brawl, which is like every card is a rare, and you need to craft one of everything.
Yes, that's why I have one deck, and I get matched up in the Hell queue, and I play the same 5 decks, and I just smile and continue going. But that's too funny. Yeah, I think Arena is. I enjoy Arena as someone like when I think like most Magic players, you kind of come and go a lot, especially if you've been playing with us. I started playing during the Urza block, and when I say started playing, I was playing it on the sidewalks of my junior high, so nothing too crazy. But when I came back after not playing since college, Dominaria was just coming out, and Arena was kind of just in I think they had just finished closed beta and open beta was coming, so so that for me was great because it really got me back into the game and being able to play, because I don't have a lot of people around me to play with paper Magic with. But I think there's definitely something about paper Magic, and again, I think this kind of goes into a lot of like the important, like why the game has been so successful is is the gathering part of Magic. The Gathering is being able to kind of be around like-minded individuals when it comes to like how you approach the game or just like what you're kind of trying to get out of it.
I mean, we certainly sorry to cut it.
No,
Drew.
please.
No, we certainly love Arena at the VML. Like when we started out with the VML back in January 2020, perfect time to start anything. It was kind of designed as, there's a bunch of us 20-something friends wanted to play Magic together, and then this league was made, and season 1 there were really just 24 of us, 26 of us, something like that, and then but it was really through Arena that we were able to grow what we were doing, right? And for the first year and a half, all we did was the league, and we just did season after season. Season 3 went up to 64 players. We got invites attached to the set championships and into the organized play of Wizards at the time, and then kind of grew from there. Now we're in season 8, and it's still on Arena, it's still standard. And actually having the digital client has made it really possible for us to build this like global community of players that the VML is now. And the way that we worked it out is that we have players from all over, from Australia, from Europe, etc. And the way the VML works is that every week you can actually arrange your match whenever you like. So you don't have to all show up at the same time on a Saturday to play 9 rounds. Like you can just, if your opponent is in Spain, or you are going on holiday to Bulgaria, whatever it is, you can just find a time that works for you, because there's going to be some time during the week that you can play your match. And that has been a huge, I think, really a cornerstone of how successful and popular the VML has been.
For sure. Well, we've talked about it. We've hit it out. So let's talk about the VML. Let's jump right in. So the two of you are co-chairs of the VML. So I guess my first question is, how did you two first kind of meet up, get together, become friends, and then talk to me about the origin and creation of the VML.
Okay, wait, I want to do it. It's my favorite.
I was going to let you.
I was muted. Okay, so Haiyue and I.
Okay, we're back. We had a little technical difficulty, but I'm on edge to hear the origin story between the meeting of the minds. So, Caroline, I will let you jump back into it. I think your enthusiasm was so much it caused a internet outage.
That's actually probably true. Okay, so I was in Vancouver, and a friend from out of town was visiting Seattle and offered to come up and visit me, which was pretty cool. So he drove up with some friends, and I was like, I don't know how to entertain people. Like, what the heck do people do? So I suggested an escape room. So we Googled. I actually put my friend in charge of finding the escape room, which was really not like, why did I do that? But anyway, so he Googled one. He's like, oh, Caroline, it's just in North Vancouver. Now, I don't live anywhere near North Vancouver, so I was like, okay, that's fine, but it's like an hour drive from my house. He's like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. So we drive and we arrive in definitely not even North
close
Vancouver,
to North
but
Vancouver. Well, no, North Vancouver's on the other side of like the sea. Like,
but what he meant was the north of Vancouver, which is downtown. He took us to downtown Vancouver, which was cool. So I went in, and we were a bit early for the escape room because I thought we were going to North Vancouver, so we left really early. And we went to this board game store that I knew about. We were chatting. There was a cool person working there. We chatted a little bit, and then we went to our escape room. And at the end, we were like, oh, there's actually some board games people wanted to get. So we headed back to the board game store. And when we were there, I had kind of realized that I had seen the person working at the board game store at a previous weekend's like Magic competitive event. And I kind of like have a bit of a badge of honor where at the time I knew all of the like women that played Magic in Vancouver, and that was like important to me. So like, I don't know who this is. What the heck is wrong with me? So I start chatting and explained that weird stalkerish fact about myself, and had kind of a good connection. And so at some point I offered or asked if Haiyue wanted to come for dinner with us, like this random strangers that were in her board game store. And she did, as much as it was really felt like I was asking her out on a date.
Oh, very like that.
She did in fact join us, and the rest was kind of history. Like from that meeting, she met up with she came down to like a Grand Prix in Seattle nearby, and it was close to our getting to know each other. And then from there, the rest was really just history. And fast forward to 2020 when we kind of got together and got involved with the VML.
Caroline always skips past my favorite part of the story, which is that at said dinner we went to this like board game pizza place, and I destroyed everybody at Seven Wonders, which by the way is a drafting game. So that was
that part out.
Never ever told this story so many times, and I always have to be like, and I killed you all in Seven Wonders.
So you were working at a board game place, and then you went to a board game pizza place, like a separate.
Oh yeah, a different place.
Awesome.
They were very close to each other.
We're nerds. That's like been well established.
That's funny. Well, that's awesome. So, and how long ago was that?
2019.
20.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
yeah.
Time is a flat circle and has
yeah.
no relevance, and everything is in nothing, and it's hard to keep track of anything these days. So instantly hit it off. So talk to me about the VML. What was the inspiration, or what was the origin behind creating the VML?
So I kind of mentioned this earlier, but basically there was kind of two factors. The first was that there was an organization called Aspirin who were active in Hearthstone at the time.
Okay.
And the people behind it wanted to create a Magic League similar to what they were doing in Hearthstone. So they had this like round robin kind of league structure. And also there was this desire and need for something in the space of marginalized genders, people who have faced gender barriers in Magic, to kind of play together. And that kind of grew out of essentially a lot of people that Caroline and I knew, mostly Caroline knew because she knows everyone, through the Grand Prix, the PPTQ, the TTQ circuits, like the competitive circuits. And so that kind of all culminated in VML Season 1, which was a very, very ramshackle operation, kind of just put together, and we were learning as we went. And then Season 2, Caroline and I decided that we were better at being in charge than the people who were previously in charge, so we promoted ourselves to kind of organizing the whole thing. And that was when we started talking to Wizards about supporting us And then season 3 is really the time when it kind of became
Wow. Just skipping season 2.
Caroline. We can come back. We'll come back to it when we get to season 6 or whatever.
That a notable thing happened. That's fine. I won.
You have a few wins.
She has a few wins.
I noticed that there's a few.
I was gonna keep this.
Oh yeah, I was gonna. Well, it's okay. I wasn't gonna go through every season, but really, season 3 was like a big time, just because Caroline won the previous one, and because Wizards of the Coast very kindly agreed to support us with a path through the VML to organized play, and that was like in terms of mission and outlook at the time, and in the early conception of the VML, we were very focused on, showcasing the talents of our players and saying we belong here at the top tables. We deserve a space to compete where we're comfortable, where we're happy, where we're not faced with a lot of the problems that we would face when competing elsewhere. And we're all people who love competing elsewhere, as previously discussed. And then, and the path into the set championships and into organized play was it was really huge for us, like a huge validation of what we were doing, and also kind of a goal, for people to engage with and to be recognized in the community as, this is a project that is here to stay. And that has been going on. That was from season 3. We're now in season 8. And something that's very cool for this year is that with the new organized play system that we were talking about before, we spent a long time kind of really hammering out what the VML looks like now that we're past the pandemic and now that paper play is back. So this from this cycle onwards, each of the VML seasons, the top 8 will actually get to qualify straight through to their regional championships. And that applies wherever they live in the world, which is really cool. So, if a player from the Philippines in the VML wins or gets into top 8, they're going to get to go to Southeast Asian Championships. And we're also having a gauntlet event at the end of the year, which is the top 8 from each season 8, 9, and 10, which will be like a 24-player kind of smaller field competitive event at the end of the year, and that this year has 2 Pro Tour invites attached. So there's basically a lot of play that is going to happen this year in the competitive part of the VML, and culminating in an event where you can qualify into the Pro Tour, which is very, very cool. We're very, very excited about it.
Yeah, that is fantastic. So if you're watching, and the VML, if that sounds familiar, but not sure why, I kind of first got turned on to you because I saw a banner through Magic Arena that was shouting out the VML, which I can only imagine you guys were thrilled about, because that's, it's essentially Magic's, Magic Online, but it's probably considered Magic's premier digital platform, I guess, at this point. Sure, I think so. Yeah, I think that's
definitely. It's the flagship.
Well, they gave one to a different company.
Yeah.
That is true.
They picked their favorite.
They're all the favorites, but they just favorite one more. Anyways, so that's awesome. I mean, just to see, not only the evolution over 8 seasons, that's a pretty impressive run in and of itself. As someone who's barely done 11 episodes of this show over the course of a year and a half, 8 seasons of organized competitive space is phenomenal. So, so many things I want to get into. So, what do you think when you first got started? What were some of the difficulties I think that you kind of faced starting this kind of league?
So for me, other than the kind of expected answers, the thing that I struggle with the most in the VML is just getting the word out to people. Season 1 through 7, we had a lot of growth from season 2 to season 3 by going up to 64 players, and then every season afterwards we consistently could fill 64 players. But it was always a little bit of an anxious weekend where we'd open on the Friday and Caroline would be yelling at people at the local store to join on the Sunday night. And, you know, we'd get to 64 every time, and my anxiety levels would not be a factor. But I did feel like we had reached a cap of, like, we were a household name with exactly Magic Twitter in any of our friends. And we were having a hard time breaking past that. And in season 8, one of the big proposals was that we would double in size to 128 players. So one big barrier for me as we were negotiating and talking about all this was, how the heck are we going to find 128 players? And so I will say the arena ad was a really, really, really big component of that. And we ended up filling up season 8 in 28 minutes.
Wow, 28 minutes.
It was wild.
Which is pretty insane, because the thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to get 128 people to, you know, pay money. It has an entry fee. It has a $10 entry fee. It's not a lot, but it's got something. And then also commit to 10 weeks of their life. And this has actually a holiday break, so 12 weeks of their life, potentially. And still also explain what we are in that 28 minutes of those people trying to sign up and figure out, like, what the heck is the VML. So to accomplish that was pretty huge for us. And we're kind of excited to see how it goes from there.
That's great. I mean, 28 minutes. That is that's fast. That is a fast.
It was completely crazy. I was just, you know, and we did, like Caroline said, previous seasons, people would sign up when it opened. You know, it would take about 2 days to fill, which was already pretty good. And we were taking bets in the pool, not bets obviously, but we were kind of, everyone was trying to guess in the team, like how long it would take to fill up, and there were all these guesses like 18 hours, you know, 36 hours. Like somebody said,
I said 3 days.
3 days.
I had Monday.
Yeah, and then it was just like every time you refresh the page, it would jump by another 20. It was completely crazy.
Well, it's, you know, as someone who gets excited when they get one new subscriber on their YouTube channel, like I could imagine, you know, that feeling of like, yeah, like people are in it. Like it makes, you know, every person joining and every sort of like. It's just, it really helps reiterate like what you're doing is meaningful, and like people are into it. And I think that's, you know, it's always exciting to see, especially when you're doing something. What I would think is pretty darn important in terms of really kind of expanding the gathering community and kind of building these spaces. Do you think?
I can actually talk a little bit about that, because so one thing. We had a group of people that was somewhere around 200 to 300 people, you know, just players that had played before, and the occasional, like, maybe someone who'd heard about it was waiting for the next season. And then when we got the arena ad, obviously in our Discord and in our community, we just grew dramatically or exponentially, depending who you want to annoy. And one thing that we really cherished was messages that people would write when they would find the community, just these general, like, wow, I can't believe this exists, this is something, like, this clearly works for me, this is something that, you know, looks like me, and like I love this, and just all these really heartful messages, which was really nice, because we were obviously also getting the less heart messages and the more not nice messages, but those are pretty easy to just ignore, and so we were having a good time that week of just like seeing all these fun testimonials and reaching that the community I was trying to reach, the thing I was like saying that we've reached Twitter, like who else is out there, and turns out there's a lot of
so many. There are so many people out there, and another facet kind of what Caroline is talking about, the reaching people, is something that you experienced at Magic 30, where we are trying to be more present at big events, at conventions. We're working to create like safe play spaces at these events where people can play. Everybody's welcome, but they can play in a welcoming environment. And at those events, we meet a lot more people as well, even that we didn't, you know, through Arena. Because, as you know, plenty of people play Arena, and lots of people only play Arena, but a lot of people really only play paper and haven't engaged with any of the online platforms at all. So that's like another area that we've always wanted to expand more in, and now with our presence at tabletop events, we've managed to, or at least we've at least started on the road, should we say, towards making those connections as well.
For sure. And when you speak with people, the idea, like, what I could kind of talk about, like, representation, like, matters a whole lot in everything. It's very easy to get caught up in this idea, like, that's not an important aspect, but, like, when people can see people they can relate to, especially in, a lot of, not just gaming, but maybe, like, a lot of communities, like, it's really easy for gatekeeping to kind of occur, and you can really turn away people, excuse me, who would be interested in kind of joining or participating in these communities, but maybe they just don't feel initially welcome, whether they would be or not. And to be able to kind of provide this the system of not only, I mean, it's not only a this league, but, like, this is a competitive league. Like, I could imagine most people who play in this would destroy me at pretty much any sort of form of kick. You know what I mean? Like, I would be like, I can only imagine these are players, they're people coming in. They have that, probably Carolyn and said they want that prize pool. They're coming for it. And it's, a serious business. But, like, that sort of thing, when you can show those type of players, like, I think it does a lot in terms of, I always talk about community building, and, like, the community is so much bigger and so much more we can continually make it better and more inclusive. And I think that's one of the most impressive parts of what you've been doing with this. And you're talking about your tabletop presence. Obviously we kind of spoke briefly at Magic 30. You were quite busy, so again, I appreciate the time you got me. But I think every time I was walking the floor, every time I walked by your booth, all their tables were fully loaded with people playing, and it was, and it's great. Obviously, like, it's a Magic convention, so people that play Magic, but, like, there was a lot of other spaces, like, people could have been going, but to see your booth constantly filled, like, I'm sure you thought that was probably great to see.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Sure.
If you wanted to talk, I mean, you had kind of mentioned your interest in the work you're doing on tabletop events. I mean, is that kind of the goal, is to kind of I don't want to say pivot, but to, like, really try to get more into, like, a physical space to kind of get people involved, or ready for, like, the arena sort of idea?
For sure. So earlier on I said when we started out we wanted to show everybody how good at Magic we all were, and showcase the talents. And I think, like, now 8 seasons later, a lot of great players have come out of the VML. Not come out of, I mean, obviously they existed before the VML, but a lot of great players have participated in the VML and kind of made it what it is. And also they've done a lot of growth, a lot of testing, a lot of training in the VML, which is great. And a lot of VML players have gone out and done very, very well at other major events, series, kind of across. So that kind of part of the goal, while it's still ongoing, is, like, we kind of have a handle and, like, we know what we're doing there. And then something that we are maybe expanding, I guess, our purview, certainly that we've been thinking about this for the last year or so, is that we kind of feel that the challenges that competitive players face, that Caroline and I were more used to, maybe don't just only exist for competitive players. They also exist for people who play a lot of Commander. They also exist for people who are just visiting their store for the first time. They exist for people who are learning to play the game for the first time. And those barriers are really kind of throughout. And at each step along the way, when people come across those barriers, they drop out of the game, right? Like, not always, obviously. Like, plenty of people are in the game, but you're gonna lose players who are put off by parts that are not Magic at various parts of the game. So we really wanted to be able to bring a little bit of what we did with competitive to a wider audience, and to the friendly space, the casual space, and the gathering, the tabletop space.
Definitely. So, like, it's always funny. I always think. So, what do you think? Have been your greatest successes? I know we've talked about a lot. I mean, maybe it's just the wizard support or the jump in things. But is there anything that kind of sticks out in your head that like you're really, you saw something happen that you like were like, okay, yeah, we're doing something, we're doing this, and like really kind of like emphasis, like really kind of put it into like, yeah, this is worthwhile. This is like I'm stoked that we've been able to do kind of to accomplish this sort of thing. I think that I know we've talked about so much, and maybe we've kind of, or I don't think anything else that we haven't been talked about or anything that really stands out in either of your minds.
Probably the arena ad.
Yeah.
Is probably like launching season 8 with the cool new like season 8-9 leading into like a championship style event. That's a pretty big accomplishment. I guess, okay, so I have like, I guess, pretty accomplishment story. The other day I was at a local RCQ event about an hour from my house, so it was, into Colorado. And it was a very small event. There were 16 people and like 5 of us came from Denver. So it was like a really small, tiny store. We were like invading their space. And there was someone that was playing and they said something like, oh, like I've been playing a decent amount of standard online. I'm in a standard league. And I was like, who the heck is running standard leagues other than us? So I like wait till there's an opportunity because they were like in a conversation. And I was like, hey, sorry, I just heard you talking. What standard league are you in? And they're like, oh, I'm in the VML. And I lost my mind. I couldn't handle it. Like that was for me like a big full circle moment because the thing I literally do when I go to these events is I find people that I think will be a good fit for the VML and I advertise it and I bring out these tokens and I promise to them that I'm not weird and that they'll really enjoy themselves. And so to come full circle to travel to like this tiny store in the middle of nowhere and this person just share that they are participating in the thing I made was just too much for me and probably too much for them because I was kind of making it, but they were very nice. But I guess that's my biggest accomplishment anyway, if you think about it.
I mean, and those are the kind of stories like, as like, a creator or what have you, like to be able to affect one person, right, that is in this league designed that they can participate in, and for you to like, not maybe they didn't probably realize who you were or what your involvement was, and be like, oh yeah, that's my thing, like that, yeah, right, and like that's the kind of, I think, the moments that make doing any sort of project worthwhile, like that is, I don't want to say like recognition because like I don't think you guys are out there like, oh, we want to be known as the people. No, like it's not that recognition in the sense like you need the accomplishment, but like being able to affect someone's life in like in a positive way, I think can make a huge.
Wait, we're not doing this for the accomplishment? I thought I was going to get some trophies.
Wow. Well, Caroline, the real trophy is the friends we made along. I'm joking.
I thought it was the crown.
Okay. I kind of along that same vein, and I guess I kind of harp on about this a lot. It's that like a huge accomplishment for me is really the community and networks that we've helped develop through the VML. And to kind of get the wider context of what I mean is that in the competitive world, I'm not really sure, of course, what the scene is as much like in the casual world, but in the competitive world, a lot of players form groups that they work together. So they'll work together, like testing teams, and they'll work together for a pro tour or a specific event, or just in general, they'll kind of band together and work for things. And traditionally, a lot of these testing teams have been very kind of closed off, like secretive groups of people, and difficult, should we say, for people of marginalized genders to access in the way that maybe less marginalized people find it easier to access those groups. And those groups are not only there to like get better, right? They're not only there to get better at Magic, although that is part of it. Like they travel together to places, or they share hotels, or they lend each other cards, or whatever it is. And that kind of dynamic, without that kind of dynamic, to become fully engaged in the grinding the grind of Magic is difficult. It's difficult, I think, to do that unless you really have that support network. And what we're seeing now, 2 or 3 years later, is VML players who will meet up at events, who will go to events together, who will room, who will lend each other cards, and they'll test together. And seeing those networks kind of develop organically, and friendships, and just people feeling like they're not alone. They're not just Caroline busing to these events by themselves on transport, but they can say, hey, I have someone to drive down with, or, I know who I'm going to be seeing there. That's a huge achievement to me, because even a few years ago, it was not like that at all. And it was very, very difficult, I think, for people to really have that sense of comfort and confidence that they were not going to be alone at events. And that's a huge thing to me.
That's great. I always say it's all about community, and I think you two are doing a great job in building up a very good community of your own. That's also part of the Magic Gathering community as a whole. So here's kind of a throw you guys on the spot question. What are you looking for the future of the VML? Maybe, depending if you continue to grow, maybe trying to do like a paper and a digital league concurrently. Is that, I could imagine how complicated that would be, but any future plans that'd be cool if we can get to there someday, or anything that jumps to mind?
So I have a really classic cheesy goal, which is somewhat unobtainable, but I usually use it to answer this
I'm all
question.
about cheese.
So the idea is that going to these paper tournaments, or even looking on online tournaments, often the thing I shouldn't, but I do, is I check the ratio. I check who's in the room, and how's the representation going. And my very cheesy goal is to get to a point where it's so normalized that I don't have to or don't do that, because it's just a normal deviation of players, and I'm happy with it, and I don't even think about it anymore. So I guess my goal is to make us obsolete.
Yeah.
Great.
No, that is really, Caroline's right. Like, it's really been that since the beginning. Anybody who's been in our position has had that feeling of walking into a room. Like, the first time I went to a Grand Prix, I'd been playing Magic 6 months, maybe 7 months. And I walked into the room, and I was really excited. My first big Magic event, and it was like 2,000 men and 50 women in a room or something, and it was, and that's
pretty great
for the time, like,
honestly.
And it was just wild to me. I had never ever been in a space like that before, ever. And I'm quite a resilient person. I'm not really very easily phased, but even really I had a moment of like, whoa, this is weird. Like, this is very, very weird.
I went to GB Copenhagen, and I'm pretty sure I was the actual
that's pretty interesting.
Okay.
It was like in the same time frame. I went by myself too. It was
so making ourselves obsolete, that's definitely the first goal. And then, like, a subsidiary goal, I would say world domination is like secondary.
Wait, which one's first?
The obsolete is first, but if we can't have that, then we'll have world domination.
Okay.
We would like to grow. In terms of more immediate goals, I would say the tabletop events, we would love to be in a space where we have the ability to have a presence at more major events. The other series of things that is happening. We had one. We were at Face to Face Toronto last weekend, which was great. That was really good to get some East Coast kind of networks made, and to kind of just be in the Canadian space was fantastic. So doing more of that, and I have also a kind of a related goal, which is that I would love to get into the store level. Like, I would love to get VML posters, leaflets, what have you, into LGS level, where people can see it and feel not only welcome and safer at their LGS, but be able to have a direct line through to us from
awesome.
Store level.
I think those are pretty great goals to have. Absolution, world domination, two sides of the same coin in a lot of instances. But no, I think, to your point about Obsolution, I think that's an important goal. I think it's a great goal to have, and I think hopefully one day you can definitely get there. So if there are people interested, VMLMTG.com, I believe, is the website for you guys. I will post that with amongst your other socials, all that kind of good stuff. So
we got it all. VML MTG is everything.
All right, very cool.
Except YouTube, but it should be. I'm just lazy.
So I want to a few things. I want to thank you so much for giving me your time to kind of come on and talk about the work you guys have been doing. So what I would like to do, I talk a big game about community. So what I do when I have my guests on is what I try to do is to be able to support the people that come on to sort of build my own community out and be supportive in some sort of way. So I'm going to use the magic of video editing, and I'm going to pop up my community board, which will be pop. And then what I'm going to do is looking at that. I know the VML does a lot on streaming on Twitch, so I'm going to the show and tell. So we'll basically maintain a subscription to the VML channel to try to help in some small way to continue. Not a whole lot, but I figure every little bit might help. So that way, even after this show is gone and you guys are on track for world domination, I'll have to say I play a little part in that sort of effort. And then in addition, what I will do at Haiyue suggests, I will be making a donation to Trans Lifeline, just as again to kind of try to support people who may not be able to get the resources or help they need. It's a scary world out there for a lot of people, and anytime you can provide help or support, I think it's important to do so. So that'll just be the small contributions that I can do in some way to kind of try to help support you two on your path on continuing. I think you are doing very important work. And I just hope to see you have continued success, and I look forward to seeing, when your league is, I put myself on the spot to do math, 128, 250, 256 people, what have you. So, again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
512.
Wow,
512.
You could not let that go. I can feel it just building up.
I believe it.
Yeah, we've all owned USB sticks, Carolyn.
There we go. USBs. Oh, that's a good reference. So,
well, also 250,
yeah,
500.
Smart.
Drew, thank you so much for the donation and for having us on, and for the subscription. We really, really appreciate that. For putting up. This is now you have some taste of what my life is like.
I'm very impressed. That's all I'm gonna say.
Actually, is great.
Yeah, no, you two are fantastic. Again, thanks again for coming on. Hey, if you're watching or listening, if you want to subscribe, I'm on YouTube. I'm now on all major podcast platforms, so that's cool. Trying to hit my goal of 50 YouTube subscriptions by the end of the year. Warned you too. I'm
nice.
Very small, so there we go. But yeah, if not, again, this was awesome, and I look forward to seeing what the VML holds for the future. So we will catch you two around.
Thank you so much.
Well, thanks.
We'll catch you.